Welcome to Nightlight. Step away from the mainstream and gather around as we enlighten the world and our realities and travel this cosmic journey we call life. Join us as we share with you and provide that beacon that can guide us all to a better way. Explore with us as we examine a metaphysical montage of spiritual insights, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between. This is a time of awakening, of sharing and evolving, of spreading our wings and soaring on the cosmic breath of creation. Come and join with other like-minded spirits as we weave our lights together to seek understanding, enlightenment, and with a little luck, some wisdom. This is Nightlight, a reminder that you are never alone.
Welcome, everybody. Glad you could join us again tonight. This is one of my favorite Sundays of the month because I get to spend 2 hours with Solaris BlueRaven. This is actually her show. It's called Neon Twilight, and it's we put it together a long time ago, and it's been a rather fascinating journey through quite a while that we've been doing the show. She has, of course, 2 other radio shows that she does that are on Freedom Slips Radio. And yet she finds time to spend 2 hours with me once a month. And so we can sort of compare notes and stretch ourselves and share philosophies. She's got a ton of books out there, all of which are fabulous. And I highly recommend them all. I would suggest if you're going to read her books, though, read them in order because they build upon one another so that it gives you a good foundation to stretch and grow from. She has definitely been in the field a very long time, and between the two of us, we probably have over 100 years worth of spiritual material that we can draw upon and share and put out there for you and let you take a look at. And if something feels right and applies, then you can take it and make it your own, or you can just say, well, they're nuts, and, have a good laugh at us. But the reality is that this is a wonderful opportunity for me, especially, to be able to talk with somebody who talks the same talk I do, and kind of gives me a chance to stretch into new areas of adventure and expertise. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Solaris.
Why, thank you, Barbara. What a pleasure to connect with you each month. It's really an honor for me, and I look forward to our conversations every time.
Well, it's we've been taking turns picking topics,
right?
And well, trying to anyhow. We know where we're going to start, but we have no idea where we're going to finish, and hopefully we don't, go too far afield. It was my turn, and I picked Atlantis, Lemuria, and Mu. All ancient civilizations that sank beneath the sea, and that was their commonality. And they're names that get thrown around a lot. And the one that has, the most history behind it is, of course, Atlantis. And if you go to Madame Blavatsky, she says that it was at its height. How many years ago? Wait, I wrote it down. 900,000 years ago, Atlantis was at its height. So according to her, it's very, very old. But I think the thing that I wanted to really look at and talk about was these are all of them civilizations that were so far advanced that it was unbelievable, and yet they were destroyed and that they sank from view, and that we are the remnants of them, and it's sort of like we can't prove any of them. I think the one that people are trying to prove more than any of the others is Atlantis, and they have it all over the place. So wherever the heck it may be, or pieces of it may be, it's why do we need them? Why do we need these fantasies, these ancient civilizations to draw from? That there's actually, I mean, with Atlantis, that there is mention in a lot of the ancient writings of Atlantis. The others, not so much.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we feel that we have to always go back to them and point to them and draw from them supposedly wisdom?
Mm-hmm. I think that's a really good question. And when you think about it, it's a benchmark to our cosmic history. If you ask me, I think there's something there in between the spaces of our psyche and maybe cellular memory that's an imprint in connection to this. I think there's a lot of validity to it, even though it seems like a myth and a story. But a lot of psychics and channelers and people who are just plain connected into the higher frequencies, I think, have been able to access what appears to be something similar to an Atlantean timeline. So, in my opinion, I think that it's very significant. And as I was kind of touching on before we went live, we're in a parallel right now with the misuse of technology and the power struggles. And I find that it's very interesting to see that parallel between what caused Atlantis to reach its own self-destruct versus what's happening here in this country. And I'm not sure if you're familiar or not. You probably are, but I've heard it many, many moons and many times over that America was considered kind of like an Atlantean timeline to some degree. And I think that's quite interesting.
Well, we have Blavatsky going into great depth of wonderful stuff on it. Churchwood went into it a lot. Edgar Cayce. I mean,
yeah.
of all of the people that have written about it and stuff like that, Edgar Cayce's the one that I stand back and I think he was so good. He was so dead on, and he spoke quite a bit about Atlantis, and I got to wondering if perhaps rather than being lost civilizations on this plane, if maybe they were other dimensions, and we bring the memory of those civilizations from other dimensions into this dimension, because I mean, certainly, they thought Troy was a myth, and yet they'd have found the ruins of Troy. They felt a lot of the biblical stuff was, just stories made up to tell a story, and they're finding the remains of a lot of the cities that they spoke of in the Bible, and I'm kind of the Lemuria and Mu couldn't possibly have even occurred because of continental drift and the plate movement and all of that kind of stuff. They've basically proved that they can't have happened, but I believe they did happen, but maybe not in this dimension. So that maybe the stories that are told come from another dimension.
Different frequency and cloaked in that mystery. Yeah, with the frequency bands, I could see that. Higher frequency, higher multidimensional. We've talked about, the emerald tablets come to mind, or where certain energies are invisible to this realm, but they're still there. They're tangible through the spirit or through multidimensional states of consciousness and frequency. So if we adapt onto another frequency, we could be able to access perhaps that timeline where we would see these things. I think it's a high possibility. And plus, this place, in my opinion, has been terraformed so many times over where it's unrecognizable. We've talked about the pyramids before and how they're like a shell of something else. So a skeleton almost. But the signature frequencies there, and people have profound experiences supposedly when they go there. So obviously there's a resonance of something else beyond the structure, which I think is fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned earlier before we came on air, but some of the stories told could be lessons that humanity had to learn, and so they made up the story in order to teach it the lesson. And especially with Atlantis, with how that civilization went downhill, and how, among other things, they became. The theory is that they went to war and they tried. I think it was either Sparta or Athens. I can't remember which, but they lost in battle, and then there was corruption on Atlantis, and Atlantis was destroyed. So is it maybe a moral lesson as well as anything else?
I think so. I think to some degree, it's a power struggle anytime you look at it, and also the idea behind how people handle their power, whether it's political power or military power or spiritual power. I think that there's a level that people have to get, above and beyond in order to have balance and not create havoc here. So I think that is, like I said, it's like a parallel to some degree when we think about what's going on here versus what's happened, in the past. But we all have our inner vision insofar as the remnants of Atlantis. I think we might have even touched on our personal experiences or what we perceived as Atlantis. So I mean, I don't throw all that out. I think there's something there. So it's very, very interesting to me to hear about other people's impressions of what Atlantis would have been, how it appeared to them in their mind's eye, right?
Well, and you think about, for instance, it had to be pre-flood and pre-ice age. So and that's always been my curiosity is, okay, we know what happened, with the ice age and the ice caps and everything, but what was the civilization that took place before the ice moved in and froze everything out? What civilizations were there?
Mm-hmm.
And you look at the pyramids in Yoganami, the Japanese
underwater pyramids,
underwater ones.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, they definitely are man-made. And there was a time when the sea was lower and they would have been above ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so what kind of a culture, what kind of a civilization is just leaving that marker there?
Right. I agree. I'm sure you've looked in through Google and other areas where you've studied those underwater. I mean, I have. And I can remember when I first started looking at those, this was eons ago. And I'm telling you, the vibe I got off of that was really, it was disturbing to me. I don't know what it was, but it was bothersome. And there were almost like wards to me under the water, like a warning. So I don't know what you get from those, but it was very interesting for me to note that.
Well, we did a remote viewing on those pyramids underwater.
Has that been uploaded? I don't know if I participated with that part or not. Yeah, that's fascinating to me.
Yes, that actually, if you go to the that one was the last one that was uploaded.
Okay.
So that one is there. I felt something different when we did that one as well. It was kind of like,
I'm gonna have to go back and look at those again.
Yeah, that one is up on the. There's a separate playlist for the guided meditations, and I think there are 6 of them up so far, and all 12 will be up. And once all 12 are up, I'm all ready to do 12 more. So
very good.
Warnings will go out on that one.
Yeah, I want to make sure I hone in on that too. Yeah, that's fun. I like it.
Well, it's the meditations themselves were very short, and yet it took you back in time to see what was going on and or what is going on there now. And you kind of it just feels to me that in some cases some of this stuff is other dimensional stuff. And one of the interesting things that I was unaware of was is it Mount Shasta? Yeah, it's at Mount Shasta. Theoretically, under Mount Shasta, there are towns and tunnels that where the survivors of Lemuria and Atlantis went.
Hmm. Yeah, I've heard that
And
too.
have you ever been in that area? I mean, you're out kind of in the neighborhood.
No, I've only visited. I went through there one time, but I didn't visit Mount Shasta itself. But I did see it from a distance. But I didn't feel like energetically good around it. I mean, I didn't feel like it was empowering, or I got a really good high vibration off of it. I maybe I was just in a different space. But yeah, I know a lot of people are over there, and they create phenomenal, talismans and things, and very much into that new age kind of energetic. But I have heard that there's you can call them extraterrestrials, I guess, but that's what they were saying. Insofar as
Yeah,
the underneath, yeah.
when I tapped into that, all I got was, and I thought, let me check out Manchester. So I did, and all I could feel was it was so commercialized that
Hmm.
the spiritual energy is not as strong.
I agree with that.
That it's been commercialized. There's there are people taking advantage of what energy is still there.
Yeah,
And,
like it's been hijacked. Yeah.
and
Well, the same
somebody,
thing in New Arizona too. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to walk on you. There's another portal over there where it's the same thing where it feels like it's been energetically polluted.
somebody was going to move out there, and I said, I don't, if what you're looking for is spiritual energy, and I said I wouldn't go there, I'd go to Lake Tahoe,
Very interesting.
because for some reason around Lake Tahoe it feels like there's a portal.
There probably is. To the water?
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to me like, yeah, that would make sense to me. And yeah, everything's oversaturated. All these areas that were kind of like hot spots for whether you want to call it ascension work or just getting into another field of perception. Yeah. Seems like I call it psychic regurgitation because even here when we've had really cool vortexes of light and ascension in Boulder and areas in Colorado, but I can tell you those got kind of cleared, but
Where is it? It's out west someplace, um, where they have all the portals and all of the circles and everything. It's a tourist
so
trap
it's not
now.
Sedona.
It's Sedona.
Okay. It is Sedona. That's definitely one of them. Yeah.
I went there with a friend, and we visited everywhere. And I said, they must have, closed all of the portals down to clean them or something, because I felt nothing. And I felt like, oh, there's something wrong with me. But there were so many people all over the place, and they were saying, oh, feel the energy. And I didn't feel anything. And yet I've been in
Hmm.
forests where the energy was so strong it was unbelievable. I have been in places where you could feel the
Hmm.
power that was coming out of the ground. You could stand on it, and
Yep.
you could feel the tingling. But people are making, a fortune
Hmm.
on,
Yep.
let me tour you to the hot spots, and they're not hot anymore. I mean, is it a matter that
No,
I
I
wonder,
agree. Yeah.
is
There's certain magical.
is it that it's turned off, or that it's drained, or both?
I think it could just be a different frequency band that's kind of I don't want to say it's polluted it, but I think it's still running. I just find that the energetics of people, like I said, it's like psychic regurgitation. It's changed the vortex and the spin and the frequencies to such a degree. It's a different anomaly. At least that's what it sounds like. And then part of me wonders because we're walking stargates and portals too. So what if
Yeah.
somebody had opened one of those portals a long time ago and they passed away and the portal went with them? That's another thing I look at. Before we even showed up here, that kind of thing. Someone who opened it and said, okay, I'm going to close it down now. Just like we open up Circle and do those things. I think it's a possibility.
That could be. I know that there are some that I know there's one, in the Antarctic. I know there's one there.
Hmm. Yeah.
And, there are, I think what happens is that people get carried away, or people who aren't really practitioners are going for a thrill that, it feels like they're polluted.
Yeah, I agree. It gets commercial. They lose sight of what it's about organically, I think. And yeah, just like what we're talking about with Sedona in certain areas, it's not fun to be in places like that. It's better to go in areas where there's just this pocket of magic spontaneously that pops up, like you were describing. I know I've had that experience on Maui several times when I was out there. Beautiful areas that all of a sudden you just feel the vibration. It's so powerful, and the electricity is into your body and your hands. I mean, it's phenomenal energy. It's organic. It's not polluted. It's really nice.
And yet, you don't want to prevent people who are in the appropriate place to utilize that energy to not have it. But at the same time, and it's not being elitist. It's kind of like it shouldn't be publicized. People should be drawn naturally to these places.
Agreed. Yeah, they're sacred. And to me, they're sacred pools, or sacred energy, and for healing. I mean, think about it. Whether it's water or it's a vortex, it's usually designed to heal the body, to change the frequency and heal. That's what I see anyway. Yeah, I agree. And then to have it touristy, and just like the pyramids. My goodness, it's nice that people can go see the pyramids, but also think about the contamination factor of all those people. Um, you know, they really don't get it. I think some people just don't understand what we're dealing with on an energy level.
No, and what's your opinion at the moment about the Great Pyramid? I mean, it wasn't a tomb. What was it used for?
Well, I know everybody's talked about it, and to me, it still reminds me of a generator. So something that was more in alignment with power generator, possible in correlation to teleportation or transport of some kind. I could see that. And also the underground facilities under the Giza Plateau. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But I think there's a lot there. So I think it takes on a lot of different formulas too. The amplification of energy. I mean, the idea behind what it can do to the biosuit or the body when we walk into these facilities. But to me, I think it was a phenomenal healing center. You can convert it into just about anything, if you ask me. But it boils down to energy any way you look at it, empowering up that energy.
Well, that's the same thing with Stonehenge.
Right.
I mean, again, a healing center. I was watching probably it was Ancient Aliens. I was watching a television show, and they were showing, the gods with the different heads of the different animals and everything. And somebody was talking to me and about it. And I said, you realize, of course, they didn't really have those heads, that the head was significant as to what they were a healer for or what they were in charge of. There weren't people going around like Thoth with the ibis head.
That's a big deal that you mentioned that, because people do have a misperception.
Yeah, and it's like, no, it's kind of like an MD, has the caduceus by their name. Doesn't mean they walk around with a staff with a caduceus on it. It means that symbolizes what it is they did. And I can't tell you the number of people that have said, oh no, Thoth had an ibis head. And I said, the character that was being portrayed had the ibis on it, so you knew it was Thoth that was in charge of whatever was going on at that time and stuff. So it's funny, because it seems to me that on some spiritual levels there should be, I don't know, some sort of school for people to understand this stuff. I mean, people walk in and they get the wrong impression, and before you know it, they've built an entire philosophy on a foundation that is inappropriate.
Right. Well, not to bash Ancient Aliens, but the idea behind, talking heads and spinning a story, whether it's for a bigger listenership or whatever else, I think, it's the mystery schools come to mind. I mean, it was a specific group of people that resonated to a different field of energy, in my opinion, that were drawn to that sort of seeking and were initiated into things that they had the details and the information correct. I don't know what these guys are up to, but it's interesting you mentioned that, though, because I think a lot of people are reading the data wrong. I mean, they're just not getting it. They're not understanding it. And intuitively, they might feel it to some degree, but that still doesn't change that.
Well, you talk about, I heard one woman say, how did Thoth ever write the emerald tablets with that head? And I said, I don't think he used the head to write them.
Wow, people are amazing. I could say something else, but
but it's wonderful to know that many people are on a spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary that there's so much misinterpretation of so much of the stuff that's out there.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. Over the years, it just gets more and more polluted and contaminated. You have to keep it clear and articulate. And that's why, the record keepers come to mind, or beings like us who keep things as straight as we can when it comes down to information. That's a big deal. Galactic libraries.
Yeah.
So there's no contamination. I mean, here, even if you give them the clear codes of information, they contaminate it and spin it differently. We've talked about how you can give them a conversation of something and they'll misrepresent it 10 people down. It'll be a whole different story.
Oh, it's that same thing. Yeah.
It is. It's like, it's not even the same data by the time it gets to another, 4 of other people. So, and you can imagine through the centuries we've been dealing with this. And here we are, we show up on a timeline, they give us a few books and they say, this is reality. You got to question that. I know I do. I know you do. But yeah.
Well, and you've got, the emerald tablets. Those have been misinterpreted.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to cross over to the Bible as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we have ancient writings, but they haven't been interpreted. First of all, they've been copied over and over and over and over and over again. And obviously things have changed because it's someone else doing the interpretation. And, frankly, I'm probably as guilty as anybody else. Every now and then I read something and think, I could have written that better. Here, let me transcribe this and write it.
Yeah, and it's editing. It is like having an editor saying this needs to be here instead, that sort of thing. So perhaps that was an editing system back in the day. I think it was more censorship related and also hiding secrets, hiding real information to avoid empowerment of other people. But, I think it takes on a lot of different formulas.
Well, when you get down to it, even if you're looking at the Bible stories, that's 2,000 years old or 1,500 years old, depending on what you're reading. And you just don't know how much of it is filling a gape, a hole where you have nothing, or how much of it is absolute, accurate documentation of something that was said and or done. Right. And it isn't that I doubt the Bible. I just doubt some of the material in it because of how it has traveled through time.
Right. I mean, and I've heard the Gospel of Thomas is the one that's more organic. I don't even remember reading it. I must look at it at some point. But it's, I think that's part of it. There's too much censorship and this, that, and the other. Perhaps they should have had for entertainment purposes only. No, I'm kidding. But can you imagine if it would have been a lot easier for people to deal with reality if they had just taken it a little more lighthearted, I guess.
Well, there's no laughter in the Bible, and that's kind of
it's suffering and pain, and it seems like the God it's not a God to me. It's this angry unit. So I don't know. That's my perception. Of course, it's been a long time since I've looked at it, but I don't resonate with the data. I don't feel it. I don't energetically feel with it. I think the first time I started to really grow and evolve was when I started getting into ascension work and the beyond the New Age work, but doing the meditations and working on my own body and doing healing work and going to other people who are working with me and doing light work on me. And that's when everything starts to light up like a Christmas tree. And then you just start to learn, and then you start to decode through your psyche and your higher consciousness, at least for me anyway. And then the Bible becomes sort of inverted and distorted, and you don't want to be around it because it's not the frequency. It's not the right frequency, at least for me. So,
well, they were trying to provide history. No, they were they weren't even trying to provide history. They were trying to create a dogma.
Correct.
And that's what they did. But the reality is, the spirituality connected to some of the things that happen is just magnificently beautiful. And a lot of the parables, good parables, they taught a lesson. And I think today we don't have that kind of I guess I don't even want to call it a priesthood. I sometimes think we don't need a church as much as we need, very much like the Quakers have a meeting hall where you can, get together and talk and think and reason things out.
Well, it's kind of like the Masons. That sounds like Masonic mystery schools, and where it was brainstorming but in alignment with spirit and consciousness and cosmic forces. I think that's what we're looking at, or at least me. But yeah. And I think that people should have been treated with, or at least taught a protocol of life. And perhaps the Bible did give them that, the 10 Commandments, whatever. But you should know these things. I mean, we kind of know through cosmic awareness how to be courteous, how to be respectful, how to not hurt each other. It's just a kind of a protocol, a universal protocol, at least for me. So I could never understand why people had to look in a book to behave. Like, you didn't understand that. You don't have it through your own divinity, that you don't understand that this is right and this is not right. So it's interesting.
I think that what I'd rather see is small groups getting together in a circle and sharing thoughts and ideas and philosophies.
Yep.
And coming to an understanding as to what society should be, what our world should be. This having of governments that are, in some cases, dictatorships, doesn't feel that there's a freedom of spirit there, that there should be. Spirit should be free. You should be able to,
Yeah, that's a universal given, by the way. It's nobody can encapsulate that, even though they try through religious indoctrination or political indoctrination, whatever it is. But honestly, it's a universal given, if you ask me. So, and that's why we're so rebellious, in a sense of, I won't have that. I won't have it. I'm sure you wouldn't. I'm not tolerating anyone trying to completely suffocate my cosmic force or my spirit. So it's really interesting to see. And once again, here we go with the parallel between Atlantean timelines and what's happening, with the control and the misuse of power and technology. Eventually, technology can become its own self-destruct weapon. So it just depends on the people who are in charge and the illusion of power and how they're deploying it.
Yeah, I mean, there was something on TV someplace the other day that said sooner or later AI was going to be able to be turned on without human guidance.
Yeah, sentient machines. Yeah,
and that's a little scary.
Well, my new book's on off-world intelligence, which encompasses some of that. But yeah, that to me is exactly what it's about. And the idea behind the operating system not being connected to man, or man being any part of the creation of the template. Yeah, they should be concerned how that's going to roll out.
But you look at humanity today, and there is fear, and there is anger, and you can work on fear, and you can work on anger without violence.
Yeah, division too. The division is a huge one. That when people can't sit in a room without badgering each other, yeah, it's like a bad divorce. Yeah, there's a lot of rage. I don't even know if it's anger anymore, Barbara. I think they've been converting it into rage, and I think that's some of the violence we're seeing. That it's not being contained anymore. It's like a fire out of control.
Yeah. And no, and I agree. And that's, for a long time, I've been seeing all sorts of mass disturbances like we're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing it getting worse and worse and worse, and not knowing why. It feels as though somebody lit a fire and it's out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You
And
definitely can tell. Yeah.
I do believe that even though if someone is fueling that fire, if someone is supporting that fire, ultimately the fire will destroy them.
Mm-hmm.
So that and then you have total chaos, and it's outrage, and what I would rather see is love and people sharing and people taking care of one another,
Mm-hmm.
and it's there are glimpses of that too. I'm not saying it's not there. It is there, and I would like to see it getting large enough so that it quenches the fire that is already out of control.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it started around 2020, to be honest. I think that's when things started to get a little more dim, a little more weird, and people just seem to
Yeah.
kind of get out of control.
No, and as individuals, um, there's so much going on. People are not, they don't have the freedom or the time or the energy or whatever to be looking at their spiritual journey that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
They're so aimed at survival that
Mm-hmm.
that spiritual stuff just doesn't come into play. I'm lucky I'm retired.
Yes, you are.
I can put the time into it. Yes.
Yeah. And they all need to be healed. I mean, when I say healing, I'm talking like a regeneration chamber on all levels of the being in the subtle energy field. I mean, it's not even new age. It's just the way we've always done things before mankind, showed up in a different formula with his version of healing systems. But I think that's part of it. And it's frequency based, it's vibrational. And right now, the vibrations here are just horrific. And, besides the weaponization of things that are going on with technology, there's that. And then there's the people you're right, they're in their lower chakra, they're in survival mode. And with that comes, there's no time to meditate, or maybe they pray here and there. But I think that for the most part, they're not really doing any self care. And that's a big deal. That's a huge deal.
Well, yeah, especially especially because it's so simple, it's
Mm-hmm.
so easy, and it in my opinion, it should be taught. It should be taught
Oh,
in
yeah.
elementary school.
Yeah. I think they
And
used to, didn't they? Didn't they do like some meditations? I think they were teaching kids how to do that in some schools.
maybe in well, not in my experience, but
No, I grew up, but
it may possibly in some of the more forward whatevering schools that were out there. But I just it to me it's if you get them young enough, you can give them a tool like that they can use their whole life.
mm-hmm.
And it's not indoctrinating them, it's showing them how to reach inside and get strength
Mm-hmm.
and insight and relaxation and empowerment and tapping into higher powers and all sorts of wonderful things. It's not religious,
Mm-hmm.
and the more you see these occurrences where churches are being shot up and schools are being, there are shootings going on in schools.
It's every day. And this is another thing, Barbara, I've noticed since this past year, this has escalated really bad. I don't recall seeing it this bad as it is now. But yeah, I think that and go on and on about that, but there's definitely a disturbance in the field, without question. I was going to say disturbance in the force, but same thing, right?
It is the same thing. And I'm wondering, just where it came from. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
most people are reactioning. They're reacting now.
Right.
They're not looking at where is the source of this anger or this frustration or this
Mm-hmm.
fear or whatever. But they're reacting to the fact that they feel it. And in doing that, they're shutting themselves down and shutting themselves out from
Right.
so much of an energetic field that could help them get through this period of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's cause and effect, just like anything else. There's always a cause of whatever is going on. So they have to find out what the cause is, and some of it's psychological. We have all kinds of strange going on here, and people getting triggered very easily. And instead of being able to redirect the flow of that energy, they act out in violence, or they act out in things that they probably shouldn't be doing. So, yeah, that's a problem, and I think it goes down, or it goes back to, or even forward to the idea of just doing that type of internal work to a point where you're maintaining and stabilizing your field, so that you're not being impacted and being controlled by the atmospheric condition, right? So at least
Yeah.
that's what I see, because I realize, I mean, we talked before we went live, the energies are strange. My house is a light station. I keep it as clear as I can, and myself and my fur kids. But when you think about it, you get out and you're bouncing around the world. It's weird out there. I mean, the energies are unpredictable, and you have to be very aware energetically of what's happening, but not be like paranoid. And I think some people have lost it. I think they're lost in the stream of chaos, and they're just acting out. But it seems to be escalating and amplifying, and that's a concern to see that.
Well, I had this last Christmas, my son and Carol, his wife, hosted the family, and it's her family and John's family, and one of the gifts that her father gave to his 4 children were these guns that shoot pellets that aren't lethal, but will definitely slow somebody down.
Mm-hmm.
And all I could think, and these are extraordinarily religious people, really, really religious. And all I could think of was, and he's giving them guns.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not cheap. And all I could think of is, holy mackerel, first of all, I wouldn't want a gun anyhow, because I'd probably shoot myself in the foot, or somebody would take it away from me and shoot me with it. So any way you look at it, for me, that's not a good thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when people that you respect greatly, because they are, they're very close and they're very into religion, and they're very supportive and loving and everything with one another, and yet the gift was a gun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, there are a lot of people who are religious who have firearms. I mean, that's a lot of people, as far as I'm concerned, and especially in areas of politics. I mean, without getting too political on the right, I mean, that's just a protocol, to have that. So that is, whether it's paranoia or I don't know what it is, but seems to be the upbringing to some degree.
Well, I'm in Nashville, and I'm in farm country, and farmers have guns.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, where I am too, absolutely, for various reasons.
We're around the mountains, and we've got moonshiners, and
Moonshine.
moonshine, yeah. So, but when I was living in Connecticut, I was out in the woods, and yet the thought of a gun didn't appeal to me. Of course, I had my protection. I had an aluminum baseball bat, and my son said to me, "So somebody is breaking in your front door. What do you say to them?" And I said, "I tell them to stop while I go get my bat."
Oh, that's great.
Bats
can do a lot of damage. Yeah, they really can.
Yeah, they can. But then my son said to me, "Please tell me it's not aluminum." And I said, "Of course it's aluminum. I can't swing a wooden bat." And he just shook his head.
What's wrong with aluminum bats? So I'm curious now.
Apparently they can't do the damage that a wooden bat can do.
Really? I would think they can. As a matter of fact, I would think the wooden would break, but that's just me. Wooden
Well,
a
it
wooden
depends
bat
on who's
eventually.
swinging it too. But you know,
Correct.
it's sort of like I have nothing here to steal. So anybody who breaks in here is probably going to leave a donation rather than take anything.
Right. Yeah, no,
Um,
that's true. I think it's more about personal harm. But yeah, you know, it's your weapon of choice. I mean, you know, as a martial artist too. I mean, we had a weapons rack with a lot of sabers and things, and we never had firearms when I was married. And people would go, well, nobody wants to mess with you guys because there's 2 black belts in the house. It's true because the first thing we do is go to the weapons rack, and we're trained enough to be able to handle certain situations. But
oh
I
yeah.
think with firearms, if somebody's breaking in with their weapon, that's hard to fight that. So yeah, but yeah, I think people are kind of really getting nervous now and a little bit paranoid and also polarized and very split as a society, which we don't want to see. And to unify that again is going to be an interesting challenge, if you ask me.
Well, and what's really sad and pathetic is that the people that are getting shot aren't activists. They aren't. I
Mm-mm.
mean, people in church, children in school.
Mhm.
That one I forget where it was, but the guy was in his boat and he drove the boat by a restaurant and he just opened fire and I think 5 people were killed.
Right. I just heard about that was last night, wasn't it? Yeah, I heard about that one.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even know what you call that. And yeah, I heard there was a dog in the boat or something too. That's even worse. Um,
Oh
I don't know.
gosh.
I think he had a dog with him or something. I don't know. I didn't read the whole thing. But yeah, I mean, they're just losing it. It's not target practice. I mean, that's what they're treating it like, right?
Yeah.
Just innocent
Well,
people. They're not going after the real targets that's pissed them off, but these are just people.
and there was one guy who was on a bridge. This goes back a while. He was on a bridge over a thruway and he was shooting and he hit and killed a girl. And
Mm,
they said, why did you do that? He said, oh, I wasn't aiming to kill anybody. I was just shooting at the cars.
good grief. What
I
an
mean,
idiot. What does he think's
yeah,
going to happen? Ugh.
it's frightening. And,
Well,
and,
it's
and,
irresponsible. That's for damn sure.
well, I go to the grocery store now and I try to go at times where, first of all, it's not going to be so crowded. And second of all, where, maybe, people who are plotting to do something stupid are plotting it and they aren't ready to do it yet. I mean, it's
Wow, it's
kind of
sad that
like,
you feel that way. That's just so not right. When people
well,
feel like it's just not good.
we're safe. Churches
Mhm.
aren't safe. Synagogues
No,
aren't
they're targets.
safe.
Anything like that. Gathering sites usually, stadiums come to mind, but they usually have pretty good security at the stadiums. So, yeah, it's just crazy. It's getting worse, and these people are just not having any self-control. I think a lot of them are already like I think they turn the weapon on themselves or somebody takes them down, but they don't last long. They don't live long, so they're basically on self-destruct.
I mean, it's almost as bad as the suicide vests that some of the people from Asia were wearing.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's just the same. If
Mhm.
you're gonna off yourself after you've killed people, why? I
Yeah,
mean,
it's really insane. We don't wanna get to that. We've gotta do something to de-escalate the situation here. I don't know if the military is gonna be a de-escalation situation. To me, it seems like it's an escalator. So, I don't think that's a solution to the equation, but we'll see where they go, with this whole thing.
I mean, is our society? Getting back to these ancient societies that were uh, so advanced and so full of spiritual, wonderful, and scientifically evolved, and all of that. If they went down, you know, why are we spending so much time looking at them or looking for them?
Mhm.
And are we trying to if why would we emulate something that destroyed itself?
maybe to rebuild it again and not to make the same mistakes. It's kind of like, you know, I don't want to say reincarnation, the illusion of, but making it right, doing something to fix that template, just like anything else, right? A correction, a course correction, or maybe we can do it better that next time without this kind of political or whatever it was. I mean, it wasn't political back then in the illusion of, but technological warfare or something. In my opinion, I think you can always make things better. Maybe it's a remnant of just trying to fix things, but yeah, I think there are a lot of people that are just obsessed with power and control, you know, and they shouldn't be in the positions they're in my opinion, if they have that kind of issue. You know, it's just one of those things you have to graduate into. We all know that there's levels of initiation, whether it's through healing arts or martial arts or anything else. And you don't just waltz into something where you're just completely there as the leader beyond leaders without the training and without that type of mental discipline, in my opinion. So, you know, I think we're in for a mirror image of something from an Atlantean timeline, or even Lemurian seems more like a healing. I always consider the Lemurians as healers, as very energetically connected to the earth, or we consider what they consider an earth. But the idea behind natural healing systems and very interconnected with the cosmos. Atlantean to me seemed always like the technological, advanced, very hardcore, almost hybrid civilization. So, but that's the way I see it. You know, I don't see it the way everyone else sees it.
Well, no, Atlantis, you know, from what I've read and from what I've looked into, and there's so much more material on Atlantis than the others. And Atlantis, you know, everybody's written about it. I mean, if you go back, a million years, I mean, Blavatsky did, Casey
That was
did.
the first book I read. I think it was one of the first early books I read, besides Manly Hall. I think it was Edgar Casey. I was really into Edgar Casey. That was my big thing. Linda, what's her name? Goodman. She was my go-to for the astrology and all that. You know, I think about all these wonderful people that really started being like beacons of light and spirituality to us. Or, you know, thank goodness we had that. That was fuel for the spirit. So I don't know what I would have done without those kinds of books, because that really put me on the path I'm on now. I'm sure you can probably relate, but you know, it's always about reading and learning and being inspired and expanding and seeing that there's no boundaries except for what people try to create around us for evolution.
Well, yeah, I mean, with Edgar Casey especially, you know, I think what attracted me first to him was the, you know, the personal readings that he was able to do. And then I, you know, got into some of his other material on healing and on spirituality. And then he went into Atlantis, and it's, I don't know if he did that because that's where he was drawn or if he was pushed that way. I know towards the end there, he was being utilized. I think there was a group of people that wanted him to find treasure for them. And he said no, but I think he burned up after a while. You know, he
I
just,
think so. It makes sense. And I think he might have been pushed or redirected, but that's also, I think he was so expanded in his consciousness that he was just able to stream in and get, or it's almost like remote viewing. He was able to access things. And I don't think it's fantasy. I don't think everything's fantasy. When people start, we know from our own experiences that some of this, I say a great deal of it is accurate. So, you know, some people want to pretend it's not real. Well, I think, you know, we talked about the frequencies and existing on a different level, different frequency band. I think that's highly possible. And the integration of those energies are coming, perhaps reactivating here again. Maybe we're just going through the cycle again. Well, you should have, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I mean, you know, you're saying exactly what I'm saying. I mean, with Edgar Casey, he took a nap. He went into a meditation. He turned off to turn on. But I think that in some ways he was abused.
Agreed.
And not out of meanness, just out of such a demand on his attention that I don't believe anybody has ever been as archived as he is.
Right. And he was a Pisces, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be. I
He
know
was.
a lot of his medical information is dead on.
Yeah. His old remedy books. My goodness, I wonder if I still have it. But yeah. And even my family, my ancestors, and my grandmother, I think I might have mentioned, she met him. There's a long story behind
Really?
that. Yeah, but apparently he was he was doing readings someplace. It was one of the big fairs, and she was there, and she walked in the room, and he looked up at her, and he said, "Ma'am, could you please leave? Because she's very powerful psychic." And she bowed her head and she walked out. She was an Eastern Star, but she was the one that used to find people oil in Texas for free with dowsing and
Oh,
psychic.
wow.
Just she was an incredible clairvoyant. So I thought, wow, that my mother told me that story a long time ago, and it always stuck with me. But yeah, I mean, he sounds like he was pretty wired. I mean, really, really dialed in, and very, very interesting. I would have liked to have met him myself, but yeah. So that's one
The
of my old stories on there for my mother.
the ministers that I studied with at the Spiritualist Church had readings from him
Nice.
that they didn't share. It
Oh,
would have
really?
it would have
Is-
been fun. I would have liked to have, really seen them, but yeah, no, they didn't share them.
yeah. I mean, he was a gem in the rough, if you ask me.
Oh yeah. And he really, with his foundation and everything, he truly, really um was trying to help and share. And his foundation and everything is
Mhm. He
I
still
think his
has it.
son is, huh?
He
Oh
still has the
yes.
foundation, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to belong
In
to that foundation when I was like really young, and I was always a member.
Virginia
So
Beach. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know how I think my mother paid for it, but yeah, I was really big on signing up for all that stuff back in the day. It's great. But
Those were
yeah,
the
those are the good things, you know, those are good things in our world. The good people that inspired us and had these visions that helped people. And think about having a cure for something or being able to heal an ailment without having to go to another doctor. I mean, he had all these solutions. You know, I think it's fascinating. It's very cool.
Well, I think what impressed me the most about him was that he didn't charge that much. You
Mm-mm.
know,
I
it
don't think he
was,
charged at all, did he?
yeah.
Oh, he did. Okay.
At least the people I know that got readings from him. I mean, he may not have always, but I think that's the one thing um, that impresses me, the fact that he wasn't out to take money from people. I mean, yes, pay for his time. And I've had a number of people who have approached me to be on Nightlight Radio, um, to be interviewed because they had books and stuff, and they wanted to also promote themselves.
Hmm.
And so I would go to their websites and look to see what they charged. And some of them $400 for half an hour,
Oh,
and $650 for an hour. And it just, all I could think of was, if people are truly in need of spiritual assistance, how can you justify charging them that kind of money?
well, they should do it on a. I always give people deals if I know they're in a financial situation. I'm just speaking for
Yeah.
myself. So I work with people, but I can't speak for other people. But if they're, you know, in that window of what can you do, you know? I remember in the back in the old days, they would give me like trade of incense or something else. But I mean, I see that, and you know, I do charge for what I do. But
Yeah.
nonetheless, I do work with people. So I guess it depends on the person. But I do see a
Oh,
lot of commercial stuff, and it depends on what they can do. I mean, how many hours are they really going to work with these people? And, you know,
yeah.
but the timeline astrology takes time. It's not something, my programs are not something you just go and download on a computer system. I mean, everybody can buy an astrology program. That's not what I do. I create
Mhm.
these templates myself, and it takes a while to do those. But I can't speak for other people. I think there's
Well,
instant
I've,
gratification, you know, through.
I think the times that I've bartered, um, my best barters are the ones where both of us feel we came out ahead. Um,
Nice.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed bartering. I have no problem with that. I have, it's kind of like if you have a gift, you're entitled to charge for your time. Absolutely. But don't
Hmm.
tell me that anything. I mean, I think there was somebody that was charging $1,500 for an hour's reading, and
Wow.
there's nothing unless you're going to give me lottery numbers and guarantee it. I mean,
Wow.
what can be
That's a
worth that?
brand. I don't know, but it's some people that I'm familiar with that are very high profile with their backgrounds.
Mhm.
They charge a lot, and I've never had sessions with them, but I was always curious as to what that was about. But I think a lot of it, I can't speak for the person you've seen, but I can tell you that it's usually about them being very, very high profile. I don't want to bring up the name of these people, but there's some
No,
really
no,
high
no, that's okay.
profile people out there who people will pay. I mean, they'll sit there and they'll pay for that because of the name alone, which I find interesting. Just like a Gucci bag or anything else, Louis Vuitton. And they want that Louis Vuitton bag. They'll
I
pay.
was
They'll buy it, you know?
I used to do a Renaissance festival. I did it for 8 years, and we got to know the other psychics that were on Mystic Way, and there was one woman,
Mhm.
and one day before the fair, she was out there talking and strutting her stuff and saying, "Well, I read Jackie Onassis, and I read so and so," and and she came up to me and she said, "Have you ever read anybody famous?" And I said, "Oh yeah." And she said, "Who?" And I told her Hemingway and Shakespeare.
Oh, that's
And she
great.
said, "Really?" And she said, "Wait a minute, they're dead." And I said, "I have read Shakespeare and I have read Hemingway. I've read their books." And I
Very
said,
nice.
That's what you mean, right? Because I would never talk about somebody that I had read that
Right? It's
was
your
famous.
clientele.
They'd never come back.
That's supposed to be, yeah. Yeah,
But
exactly. Well, some of those psychic fairs, I don't think they're worth much. I remember doing readings for all these psychics. I would go in there and I'd set up my little table. This was a long time ago. And
yeah.
they would come over and all the psychics wanted me to read for them. And I didn't want them reading for me. I thought they didn't really do a good job. And I was like, okay, I'll read for you. But I was amazed at how many psychics just wanted to get a reading.
Oh
It was
yeah.
wild.
No, I would do the same thing. I'd say, yes, I'll barter and I'll read you first and then I'll get you later. And I never would go and
Yeah,
claim.
I was no interested in having them try to pretend to read me when I knew they were off anyway. But if they had cool crystals or something, I'd be on it because I do like my crystals.
Actually, it's too bad we're not close. I used to do gem casting,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
and I have a jar full of uh, tumbled, polished, and cut gemstones.
Oh,
And
nice.
you take a handful and you cast them onto the table, and the reading comes from the gemstones.
Oh, I love that. That's so cool.
Oh,
You should do
yeah.
that here. That'd be kind of
Well,
nice for a live reading, you
well,
know?
the trouble is that people were getting, they were getting into, oh, I could make a ring out of that, and oh, that would
Oh,
it
well,
it,
that's not
it,
good. That's why
it
they're
was
tumbled
fun.
stones.
No, I've got the jar. I still
I bet your
every now
cats
and
like
then,
that.
I'll do a gem reading for somebody, but
That's
only if
cool.
they only if they oh it was such fun to put it together.
Mhm. I like that.
And it was I was doing readings with chalk, you know and pastels
Mhm.
and I would come home from the fair so dirty that because the chalk dust and everything, and I said to my mother one day, it has to be a cleaner way to do this. And she said, well, why don't you do it with gemstones? And one of the people that sold rough stones at the fair lived not far from me. And I called her and I say, do you have rough and tumbled stones that would cover the chakras? And she said, yeah. And I went over and I started with the root, all the chakra colors. a rough
Mhm.
stone and a polished stone and a cut stone, maybe. And people were throwing those, and the readings were a lot of fun,
Oh, I bet.
and they were a lot cleaner.
Mhm. That's great.
So, so I went from chalk to stones.
How would you do the chalk? How did you do that?
I would draw their aura
Oh,
with chalk,
beautiful. Oh my goodness, that's so cool. That's
and
awesome.
it was fun. It really
Mhm.
was, and it was totally channeled in that I wasn't looking at what colors I was picking up or anything like that.
Mhm. Right.
But after a while, you're filthy.
Well, yeah. But you're multicolored, right?
I was definitely multicolored.
See, you're like, you were talking about our years of information between the two of us. It goes in the billions of years, I swear, in the illusion of time. You have so much expertise, and it's so impressive because you spent years and years and years and years with this. So it's just amazing when you think about the work you've done, and you're still doing it. You're still doing it. So that's
Well,
really cool.
I think the coolest part of it is none of it was intentional to build a resume, or it
Hmm.
just, wherever it went, I went with it.
Right.
And,
It's spontaneous.
now I've got the deck of cards, and that's good for a while, but it just feels like there may be something else that's going to come along shortly.
Oh, I
Um,
bet. And weren't you writing a book? Didn't you say you're going to do your book, right? So you got that book on the back burner, maybe?
it's no, actually, it was funny because I was trying to figure out how do I start it. And, Greg, who's my tech, said, just start at the beginning, Barb. And I said, how do you start at the beginning of something that has no beginning and has no end?
Hmm. Start in the middle.
Well, it's kind of like, where do you start? Do you start
Right.
talking about my philosophy, about where we came from, why we're here, where we're going? Do I talk about, I have hundreds of questions people have asked me. I got
Hmm.
lots of material, but it's sort of like, how do I start? And so I think it's the first question. The name of the book is 101 Spiritual Questions and More.
I like that.
And the first question is, who and or what are we?
Hmm. And
And
you
I'll
give
go,
the answer?
oh,
Right.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, yeah.
So
No,
it's
that's
it's not
easy.
a fill in the blank. It's not a test for the people that buy it. A,
Yeah,
B, or
no,
C. No, that would
I,
be
def-
interesting.
I definitely will give the answers.
Oh, that's good.
But, and,
Multiple
and
choice.
it's really, when you start to think about think of all the questions you've been asked over time.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah,
there are
it's
many that
amazing.
just over and over and over and over again. And it's quite impressive to pull them all together and say, okay, I can answer these questions. This is a piece of cake.
Hmm.
And then I realized that it's more than one book. It's probably a series of books, book one, book two, book three, book four.
Right. And why 101?
I don't know.
It's not
It,
for like the mantras. I was thinking of the prayer beads, mala beads.
are they 101?
There's 101. That's where I think so. Not mistaken.
Huh.
Pretty sure.
The number just came, it just came to me. So I figured, okay, well, we'll go with this. This is a good title. And there's a section
Yeah, I
of my
like it.
website that is 101 questions. Um, and I don't know, there are 20 or 30 of them there, but I may not even use any of them in the book. I think that there are more profound questions. I think there are a lot of questions about your spiritual pathway and evolution and energy work and energy and, what drives one's spirit. And, how does the spirit decide where it's going to go next time? And how does the spirit communicate with us? And how, I mean, you know, on and on and on and on. So could be a very long show.
Mm-hmm.
And
It
you know,
could. Well, maybe it's 108. I'm trying to think those beads, but 101 sounds familiar to me. The 101 sounds familiar for some kind of a prayer bead, prayer necklace or something.
it possibly could be.
There must
I
be
don't
something
know.
about it.
101 comes down.
I'm always curious with the numbers.
Well, that
Yeah.
comes down to 2. Huh. I don't know. I'll have to look that
I
up
like it.
because, you know,
Yeah.
my inclination would be to come down to an 11 because that's a master number.
Mm-hmm. Right.
If I was going to do
11
that.
2, though. There it is again.
We'll have to figure that out.
But it's still an 11. So it still
I should-
equals the same thing.
I should I should
101.
investigate that before I actually put the whole thing together. I mean, there should
Well,
be
you
some
know, I'm weird like that. I'll look at numbers. I'll ask, where'd you get that number from? I'm the type that I bet you used to do this too. I used to read, I was weird with like people's numbers on their doors. I would always add them up in my head all the time and do the numerology as I was walking around.
Well, I have.
I don't know if you ever do anything like that.
Well, the unit I'm in now is 18, which is a 9, which is completion.
Mm-hmm.
I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, and it's
Yeah,
kind of
you're
like,
right.
it's sort of like,
So is this year, 2025.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
That is a 9-year, and that's completion. That's finishing.
Yep.
That's maybe that's what we're going through. Maybe society or the world is going
like
through a completion of some sort, and hopefully we'll come out on a better place in 26. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's
it's the end
10.
of the chapter for sure. It could be the end of the chapter for this country and a new chapter coming in.
I would hope
There'll be
so.
a
I would
winner
hope that 25 is going to be a time where, you know, I would like to think that peace is going to be found, but I don't believe peace can be imposed.
No, and not through force, not through bullying or censoring, or that's not the way you do things.
Yeah.
You know, so this is like, gosh, after all these centuries, it's still happening, right? So, yeah.
I mean, if you look at that part of the world has been at war for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they never stop. It's like they're so addicted to the violence, and that's another thing, the biochemical addiction of harming others or just not being able to settle in. But I think that the divine energies, whatever you want to call it, excuse me, that is part of that divine presence that stabilizes and keeps you a peacemaker versus a warrior. So, you know.
Well, don't you think that the land itself absorbs battles? And,
it's
and
imprinted.
war?
Well, we know that just from battlefields that have taken place and the spirit energy that's there. You know, I can tell you if Saratoga battlefield comes to mind when I was up there when I was young, and I swear there was like, I heard muskets going off and there were no muskets. Okay. I heard these things in real time, but there was nothing there but just the remnant. But you know, we're also very psychic, so who knows? But I mean, I felt the energy of you know, the revolutionary types were just coming up towards me. I could feel their energy and the hostility, not towards me, but the energy. I mean, the rage, that sort of thing. And thinking about you're in this mode of rage, and you know, people get angry and then they get out of it and then they go back and go, gosh, I wish I wasn't like that. I wish I didn't do that. Well, these people don't have an option anymore because they just lost their lives in the battlefield. So you can see how that would leave like an imprint of rage or unsettled spirits that just can't seem to rest in peace, so to speak. You know, I think there's a lot of that. And I don't think these guys understand that this is where they're escalating here. You know, I don't think they really want to do this, quite honestly, but you know,
Well, you look at where a lot of it's happening, and you look back in history at what went on in those particular areas. I know that Nashville, you know, was part of the Civil War, was part of it wasn't part of the Revolutionary War, but the Revolutionary War was about as bloody as they came.
Oh, sure. It wasn't any picnic. And my ancestors were there. I'm sure yours were too. Yeah, I'm surprised we made it, but yeah.
Well, when you stop to think too, that when we came here as settlers, we wiped out the Indians. I mean, we never stopped to think that they might have a spiritual way of dealing with nature and living with each other. We just imposed Christianity on them, and we tried to do away with their belief systems and how they lived and their moral sense. I mean, my gosh, they would apologize to an animal before they killed it to eat it.
Right. Yeah, they pray over it. Yeah. Well, the same thing, you know, when they show up here, we were escaping all the prejudice going on over there in England. And, you know, when our ancestors came over, we were trying to break away from that indoctrination. And it's interesting. They weren't all Puritans, in my opinion. I think they were very esoteric, mystical, and spiritual beings. I think there was a real vast energy in connection to these beings that showed up. But yeah, I agree. And then you have to look at the old programming. So they came over from that area and probably did, you know, do some really horrific things. I also know that there was some spiritual connections, though. There, on the other side, on the flip side, there were those who accepted a lot of the native teachings and spirituality, and probably had a lot to share with them. But yeah, I mean, I wish they could all just coexist. I mean, I just don't see it. I don't understand why they just can't just coexist in peace. Yeah, I just don't get it.
Well, you know, when you look at how they treated nature, how they treated the animals, my goodness, they even, they did, I find it fascinating. They even did burns in forests to keep down the underbrush and stuff like that, so that the forest would be clear and clean. I mean, they took care of the land,
right.
And we didn't.
They blessed the land. Yeah, and that's another part. People do construction and they do all kinds of weird stuff, and not weird, but they don't really do anything insofar as paying attention to the energies, right? I mean, we used to, I think I told you stories about when I was doing security on Maui, and, you know, they would do construction at some of these hotel sites, and they get spooked because the energy of the spirits, I swear, it wasn't technological. This was like spiritual stuff, was haunting a lot of the construction workers. They were having freak accidents, weird stuff. They brought people on there to bless everything. Their healers came out. But that's the sort of thing we're dealing with. It's not really superstition. There is an energetic signature. And you were talking about imprints, and I think it's true. I mean, there's traumatic imprinting, whether it's a collective that gets imprinted or even the land itself. Absolutely. And that to me can create a lot of havoc. And then, of course, how much does this place, you know, I'm sure I think you even mentioned it's like shaking off everything here and probably wants everybody gone. I mean, whatever intelligent design lives here as a, you know, I call it terraform rock to some degree. But my point is that there's obviously, it would probably be happier if we weren't here. That there wasn't this upheaval all the time.
Well, you know, I do believe that you can live in harmony with the land. You can rotate crops. You can do all sorts of wonderful things. But now they're spraying our crops. They're polluting
contaminated. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's frightening.
Well, it's unhealthy too. I think that's another part of it. It's really not healthy for your body in any formula. I think we're definitely being poisoned, if you ask me.
Well, that and the chemtrails. I mean,
everything. That's crazy. Even though I thought the chemtrails have dialed down, but I just saw them today around my house all day. So once again, they're back. And then guess what? We had rain this afternoon afterwards. So,
oh wow.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah. There it is. I would love to have some rain here. We're in the middle of a drought again.
Are you? Well, see, I mean, if they do seeding, the cloud seeding it's, you know, you can see the patents on all this stuff, and that's one thing. But doing kind of a chemical composition that's harmful to everybody's another scenario. But yeah, I mean, I don't, if they're going to do it on that level, they should do it on a constructive level. And yeah, perhaps bring some water to areas that are dry,
Yeah,
that are,
no, it's
non-toxic.
but it's it's sort of like we live on the land, but not with the land.
Well, just like everything else with the cosmos, people don't dial in. They're not really connecting in with the universe and the frequencies of the universe. They're more seeing it as just something from afar, at night, but not really understanding the energetics that we're in connection to and that we're co-creators to that source, that divine energetic. They don't see that either. I think they're just you're kind of linear in a sense, people here. And I think it's upbringing. I think it's the way they've been trained and educated, and perhaps superstition and fear, who knows. But it's affecting them. It's affecting the world.
But I was going to say it's not just this country.
No, not at all.
It's every country. Actually, I think the one thing about Great Britain that I am so tickled with is that if somebody disturbs a fairy circle, bad luck befalls them. And there are fairy circles there that are quite old.
Yeah, I believe that. I think they can. Yeah, don't piss off the spirit world.
No,
or elementals or fairies. I can see that.
I had a number of mushroom fairy circles, and I always told the gardeners to not cut the lawn in that area because the circles were there, and to leave them alone until the mushrooms had gone, and then they could go and cut the grass and stuff.
Oh, that's so nice. That's very thoughtful.
Fairy circles are fun. I mean, I had such a great time with the elementals and the little people in the gardens that I had in Connecticut. Don't have gardens here. I have to find other ways to garden. Probably with words on paper. I just love talking to plants and having plants around.
Oh, they have such beautiful energy. Yeah, very, very nice in the environment. Well, you can make a little garden. Don't you have one on your balcony or something?
My condo is situated inappropriately for sunlight.
Okay.
The front of my condo gets 12 hours straight sunlight, no shade.
You do mushrooms. Oh, you have sunlight. Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, no shade. I mean, I did have tomato plants this year, and
nice.
Overdosed on tomatoes.
Did you make well, you could make like spaghetti sauce or something.
No, I just ate them all.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, well, actually, there are people that would walk by and pick a tomato. So
really, they don't even ask; they just take.
No, wow. There were that many.
Oh my goodness!
It was one plant that absolutely outdid itself.
So you have a green thumb, obviously.
I do.
That's pretty cool. Yeah,
I do. And so it's I am past the gardening stage because I can't get down on my hands and knees and get my hands dirty the way I used to. But I did in Connecticut, and it was magical. I had a garden that was profound, and it had a walking path around it, and it was a stepping stone walking path, and it was 11 stones. There were 11. There was a series of 11 sequences of 11 stones.
Oh, interesting.
So it wound all the way around the garden. Sounds and if you walked it, you did 11 11s.
Very nice. Did it have a spiral on the stone?
No, I didn't. It was just around the beds that were there. I laid the pathway so that it was 11 11s. And cool. And I had kids come, and I told them it was the happy path, that they would walk 11 stones, and then they would have to think a happy thought before they could do the next 11.
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
It was
That's
cool. It
it's
was,
very cool.
everybody should have and there was a gazebo, and I did weddings on the porch. It was a cool place.
Oh, it sounds wonderful. You know, regular, like adults should be able to do something like that. I'm just thinking, you know, these people that have issues, just to settle
Well,
in for a little bit, you know, just something what you described, right?
well, it was meant to be a meditation walk,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like it was my version of a labyrinth.
I like
And
it.
actually, what I always wanted to do, and I haven't done, and I don't think I will do it this life, but it would have been, if I was younger when I thought of it, I would have done it. I wanted to take huge pieces of canvas, like sail canvas,
Mm-hmm.
and put it out on the ground and stake it down and trace a labyrinth on it. And so that people could walk the labyrinth in and then back out.
Mm.
And then when you were done with it, you could roll up the canvas and put it away.
Oh, I like
So
that.
you could take the labyrinth with you wherever you went.
What a great idea. That should be marketed. You should look into that in some way. Seriously, where's Greg?
Oh, no, don't tell him that. He'll do it.
Yes, that's for the
but-
whole idea.
No,
I'd buy it. I think it's great.
it really, I mean, make it really big, like 20 by 20 or 30 by
Mhm.
30.
Yeah, it's perfect.
And then you could, really, and draw it out, paint it all out so that the spaces were there to step on.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
And then just fold it up when for the winter or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I thought that was a great idea.
I think it's a fabulous idea. Yeah, something to think about.
Well, somebody who hears this episode,
Yeah, next Amazon, it's available now. Cancel the universe. Oh.
just call it a Twilight Zone labyrinth.
Just make sure you give Barbara a percentage, if you steal that
Oh,
idea.
jeez. Nah. But I thought that was such a great idea.
Yeah, no, it is. I love it. Those are good,
Yeah.
good moments, good things. That's nice. I like that. Lights everywhere.
I think that the only thing that I see missing from the spiritual stuff is the fact that laughter isn't as frequent or as present or as emphasized as it should be.
I agree. Yeah, I think
Because
people are sad. I think there's a lot of sadness, and they wear it, They wear it on their faces sometimes or in their eyes. That's sad for me to think about, People are, they're bright spirits, yeah.
Some people take it so seriously. They become so solemn and so reverent. And to me, without the laughter, without the joy, you can't get to those levels that you want to get to.
Yeah.
You don't giggle during a meditation and stuff like that. No, but in life, when you're being spiritual within your life, there has to be the laughter and the joy. There has to be. And I don't see it. So many people is no, we meditate and we do this and we write and we journal and we do the I Ching and we do, and astrology, and all of that is wonderful. And all of that has great value. But if your life is that serious, you're missing a tremendous amount.
I agree. I think you're right. The spirit needs to laugh and relax. Just like your body has to decompress and relax too. That's why we stretch or we do exercises or even Qigong or Tai Chi. The whole idea is to expand. But I think that laughter is a really big deal. It's a healing frequency from what I understand.
I think when for 5 years, I served as a rotating minister in the Spiritualist Church. And the very first time I did a sermon, it was so boring. The congregation went to sleep, and so did the organist. And I may have taken a nap too. And I thought, they're never going to ask me back. And they did. And after that, I realized that to try to do the kind of service that was a church service. I mean, I could do the different parts of it, but when it came to the sermon, when it came to giving them something to take with them and chew on, I found that I said, I'm not worthy to do a sermon, but I will share with you how I've screwed up so that you don't do it. And I found that if I could get them laughing, whatever the lesson was going to be imprinted. And the harder the laugh, the more that lesson, stayed with them. And it was amazing. I know at one point, this goes back like 35 years or so, I had just started in menopause. And when it came time for me to do the sermon, hot flashes just came like crazy. And my hair was plastered on my head. I was standing in my sweat, and I looked at them and I said to the congregation, I know you're all thinking, isn't that fabulous? She's being touched by spirit. I said, I have to be honest. This is menopause, and I could use your help. And 400 people are fanning me with their programs.
Oh.
so that and I did things with them that always had laughter. And I have had people call me back or write me, or I did something with I gave everybody once a rose quartz heart. I stuck them in the collection plate and I passed them around. Everybody took a heart, and I said, I want you to hold it as tight as you can in your hand, and don't let go until I tell you. And I talked and I talked and I talked and I talked. And then I said, is everybody, are your fingers, white? Is your hand cramping? And, everybody was saying, yeah. And I said, okay, now open your hand up and just let the heart rest there. That's what love is like. If you try to hold it so tightly that you can't function, eventually your knuckles get white and you have to let it go. But if you let it rest in the palm of your hand, it warms you and it stays with you forever.
Very nice.
And I've had people come up to me many years later, and a lot of them could reach in their pocket and pull out that heart.
Oh, wow.
So what was one of the other things I did? Oh, I gave everybody a long string, a really long string. And I said, okay, so I want you to start thinking about all the blessings you have in your life. And every time you think of a blessing, tie a knot. And, I talked and, 15, 20 minutes later, I said, okay, now I want you to tie the two ends together and I want you to put it over your neck. And I said, and the next time something happens and something's going wrong and you feel like crap, I want you to start running your finger over those knots, reminding yourself of all the blessings you have in your life and how lucky you are.
Oh, that's beautiful.
And people have, reminded me, every now and then somebody had, that dirty cord around their neck still. I said, you can do another one.
Yeah.
You don't have to keep the same one.
Those exercises are priceless. I mean, that's so beautiful.
And people they work.
Just little simple things like that, techniques that are so impactful. That's awesome.
Well, and I told them, lessons that I had learned and how I learned them. And the main point was to make fun of myself to the point where I got them all laughing, because then I knew they would remember the story.
Right.
And if they remembered the story And I would end by saying, okay, that's how I screwed up. You can't make that mistake. You have to make one of your own. So if you find yourself falling into the trap of my story, realize you have to back off because I've already solved what the point was. So get the point and move on, and find another issue that you have to experience yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what Sundays were. It was.
That's nice. When you say spiritualist church, is that universal? Is that a universal church? Or what was it?
It's the National Association of Spiritualist Churches.
Okay, cool. So it's eclectic. In other words, it's not just religious indoctrination. It sounds universal.
It actually it was founded to give a protection to the Fox sisters and mediums.
Okay, very nice. Yeah, I love that. Do they still have those around?
Well, that one is still there. You know, the camp in Talladega?
Mm-hmm.
The spiritualist, that's Spiritualist Church.
Oh, I like that. That's totally cool. Excellent. Yeah, that's nice.
And they do still have them around the country, I guess. No, they must. They actually
I think so. Yeah.
They had an ordination program I was in for a while, and I finally chose not to go through and get ordained by them because there was dogma, and I don't like dogma.
Right.
So
yeah.
I got ordained after the priesthood of Melchizedek. And there is no dogma there.
No.
And basically it's it's you follow the spirit inside of you with your truth. And you just don't sit in. The only thing they ask is that you never sit in judgment of another person. Mm-hmm. If you can, do your best.
Observation. No judgment.
Yeah. But,
I love Melchizedek. I was initiated to Melchizedek back in the day. I saw a lot of wild energy with that. And yeah, you just remind me of so many cool things I've been through with initiations and teachings. And it's a really nice thing.
Yeah, it's fun. And again, I never did anything because it would look good on a resume. But it all does look good.
Well, you can put it on. I made the mistake of doing that once on my resume. On my healing initiations. They're probably like, what? What's all that? Oh well. Plus,
it's when I was initiated into the Sanctuary of the Beloved, one of the reasons I did it was for legal protection. Because then my counseling became pastoral counseling, and so that it did, it did protect me. And then what was really fun was doing wedding ceremonies. They would give the credentials whatever state needed them, and I got permission in a number of different states to do wedding ceremonies and stuff like that. The church actually is a church, so it does have the credentials that it can provide to a city or a state.
Right. And which church was that again, Barbara?
It's Sanctuary of the Beloved.
Okay. All right. So it's not the Universal Life Church. That was another one we used to do for healing. A lot of people get certified as ministers with that one because it was about counseling. Yeah. That just reminded me of that.
Well, Sanctuary of the Beloved, there's only one person that does the ordination, and that's Dan Chesbrough. And the main church is in upstate New York. And he travels all over the country doing the initiations. And it was the most profound. I mean, he lectured for a whole day. And then the second day he lectured more. And I realized he was telling me what I already believed in, which was fabulous. And when he put his hands on me, I felt a bolt of lightning go through me.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And I was, that moment, it became a more profound thing for me because there was something very, very important that happened to me at that time.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And at that time, I never thought that I would actually be serving in the pulpit. So, but I did. Kept forgetting to take collection. So
Uh,
they would just stand at the door and hope people would give them money as they left.
they should just put a little, I don't know, something out for people to put, not necessarily. Didn't they put like a bowl or something out where people could just kind of donate as they exit or no?
The spiritualist church that I was serving in, their traditional service was any normal Presbyterian service.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The only difference was at the end of the service, there was spirit communication.
Oh, very cool.
And
well, I think a lot of these religious groups, like, I don't want to say evangelical, but I think there are a lot of them out there that do, I don't know, they say they talk in tongues, but I'm assuming they're channeling or something else.
Well, if they're talking in tongues, you can't understand what they're saying.
And another thing is, coming from my perspective of how we can hijack the brainwave activity electronically, I look a little, sideways on some of that stuff. I do understand how we do channel and step into that field, but there's another level to it, and there's a technological level to it. So I'm, kind of skeptical on some things, but yeah, that's really nice though when you can be in an environment like you're awesome. So you're in there communicating and sharing your expertise and your light, and I think that's so important to have unity consciousness, and without all the constructs and the judgment and the persecution. It would be really nice if that would be a bigger theme, bigger thing to embrace here. I know there are people who are spooked. I mean, with hardcore religious indoctrination, with beings like me, for example. I mean, I don't know where you've been, and it's so sad because it's like we walk a similar walk, but I'm expansive. I'm not about contraction and programming or containment. And, I can coexist with them, but it's hard for them to coexist with us. So it's interesting.
It's funny because I've read nuns and I've read priests and I've read, rabbis. I've had rabbis on the show.
Mm-hmm.
So it's wonderful because there's a brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
We're all alike. We're all the same. We have the same, I guess what is charged from a superior being that we try to share our love and our wisdom and our kindness and our charity with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the world were like that, it would be a better place to live in for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I remember back in the day, I always wanted to have healing centers everywhere, and I mean, my friend and I were. It was just one of those things we just never manifested as well. But that's the whole idea too, is to have centers instead of hospitals, healing centers, right? Regeneration centers, frequency healing. And I know people do this, like there are certain levels to it, and people are out there doing their thing. But I always thought that should have been the go-to on a global scale, where it's not about just one little spot here and there and it's everywhere, just as popular as you can imagine, where people can just get completely regenerated and healed. I think that would have been a really nice way to raise the consciousness here.
There used to be sea salt chambers that you could go in.
Oh, I love those. Yeah.
But I haven't seen any. I haven't seen any around here anyhow.
I know we used to have one here, but I'm not sure if it's even available. That was a long time ago. Yeah. It's just like float tanks. I mean, that's another thing, but I'm a fan of float tanks, so I would have one if I could. Weird like that, but I absolutely love them. Have you been in a float tank?
No.
Oh, that's great. I'm telling you, man, I love float tanks. I just love them.
I mean, if you could leave the lid off, I could probably float in it. But
it's just like an astronaut. Think about an astronaut. It's really cool.
Again,
I think you would really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody said to me, how do you get an answer from a spirit? And I said, well, it's real easy. If you aren't one that really, is trained for it, what you do is you try to imagine yourself if it's like, at one time I thought I wanted to be an astronaut, seriously. And I kept thinking, I'll go to school for this. And so I thought, wait a minute, let me just sit and visualize what it would be like. And I visualized myself, in the confines of a chain, a space capsule, and in the space suit. And all of a sudden, my nose started to itch, and I couldn't scratch it. And then the rumble, and I threw up in the helmet.
Wow.
And I thought, okay, that's not for me. So I just walked away. I mean, I've done that all my life. If there was a change I was going to make, I would spend some time to just sit and imagine myself in that position. And more likely than not, I would get a feeling it was a good one or it was a bad one. And so you just ask yourself, is this going to be good for me? Let me take some time to just picture myself in this position, in, like a job, and see a cubicle and see the people around me and then I realized I couldn't live with a cubicle, and that's too big a crowd for me. And, you have to be really good at imagining, and I was. And, when I got to places where I realized I need to be able to be independent. I need to be able to do my own thing. I need to be, and that's where I'm happiest. So,
yeah, I think that a lot of people are happiest when they're doing their thing, their internal vision or whatever it is they choose to do. And to me, it's hard when you're working in environments where you're not in control of it. It's like corporations or anything else.
yeah.
A lot more challenging to be in those environments. And if I had anything to change in my younger years, I probably wouldn't have worked in corporate like I did at such a young age, because I wasted an awful lot of years. I got promoted, but I literally wasted a lot of my life in corporate, where I could have had my own business and done so much more.
Well, I hated school.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
And so I became a school teacher.
Well, I'm a different kind of teacher, but you are a good one too. And you're a spiritual teacher. I mean, so you go to the next level with it as well.
Yeah, but 25 years I was in a classroom where I didn't belong.
Oh, my goodness.
So,
That's a lot.
I learned from it. And happily, it gave me a pension, which helped. But I don't think I ever would have done it when I was in college. The only thing, now come on, I'm 81. When I was in college, I could be a secretary, I could be a nurse, I could be an airline hostess.
Good grief.
Or a teacher. Those were the only things open to women.
See, I don't want us going back into that reverse mode, and we're not going to. But can you imagine, like, what about women being pilots and doing everything that they want to do? I mean, on all levels, astronauts, I know we have them now.
I mean, now there's so much to choose from.
Oh my goodness. I don't think there should be any limitation for women in any formula, but can you imagine? But you did a great job being a teacher. And like I said, I'm sure these students remember you with a smile.
Well, it's special ed. Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I bet.
But I think it did prepare me for working with, normal people.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if they're normal or not, but they're definitely, I call them muggles. Depends on which ones you're working with, but yeah. That's interesting. But you have a lot of patience and a lot of insight, but go ahead.
Well, I've learned a lot.
Yeah.
And I think, I'm still learning. So, and hopefully I'm going to continue learning.
Well, and you don't look 82 either. Can't believe you're 82. Sharp
I'm
as a whip.
81.
Oh, well. Okay. In the illusion of living. Yes. You're unlimited. There you go.
But no, I don't really feel it. I feel that there's so much left to do.
You do. With our technologies, this is another thing. We have so many different types of healing modalities and technologies that could literally help us regenerate. And once again,
oh yeah,
slow motion.
But I just noticed our time. And you want to hand out where you are and how to get to you?
Oh, sure. Well, I just want to say this has been so fun. I really enjoyed being connected with you tonight, and we had a great time. And thank you for tuning in, everybody. And I can be reached. I have Raven Star's Witching Hour on Saturday nights, 12 midnight Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Pacific on Revolution Radio. Then I have Hyperspace, which of course is on Fridays at 5 p.m. Eastern time at the same station on Studio A. And, my website's nightshadowanomalydetectives.com or .net. And my books are on Amazon.
So you do Sunday, Friday, Saturday,
Friday,
Sunday.
Well, just Sunday today with you. Once a month.
Yeah. But once a month.
Because it's Saturday night. Well, technically on the East Coast, it's after midnight, or it's midnight, but not where I am.
Well, also, I think that also want to remind people about your books, because your books are fabulous.
Well, thank you.
And I thoroughly have enjoyed all of them. And watch for us last Sunday of the month. That's when we are going to appear. And try to find joy, try to find laughter, try to find creativity, and expand yourself that way. It's weird times, but it doesn't mean you have to be weird with them. You can be creative.
Exactly. Yeah. Redirect the flow.
Well,
like what we've done tonight, because, we had a conversation before we went live, and it was like, I felt, the whole atmosphere is so yucky. But then we get in here and we start talking about really wonderful things, and the energy is so nice and beautiful. And I appreciate you so much. And I thank you for opening this for us to communicate once a month. I really appreciate that.
Well, it's a sheer joy for me. And I, it really, it's your turn to pick the topic for next time.
All right. I'll try to find something. Well, we stayed on the topic a little bit.
Yeah, we did pretty well.
Okay. Yeah, we did fine.
Okay. Good night now.
Good night.